Saturday, too, when Mississippi State and Texas A&M get together in Starkville. Since Texas A&M came into the SEC, starting with that 2012 season, this series is deadlocked. 6 wins for both the Aggies. Both teams have won consecutive games in the series once during that 12-game span. There was a stretch where Mississippi State won. Okay, I completely messed that up. Never mind. Forget it. It's 6-6 in the last 12 games. Olin Buchanan is here. He is at Texags, and I'll just shut up and let you talk now, Olin. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I was trying to make that make sense and say that it's been even, and I just bumbled all through it.
Well, all I know is that every time A&M goes to Starkville, you're holding your breath because Starkville is Wallace Wade Stadium is a torture chamber for Texas A&M. It's where good seasons have gone to die, usually.
This qualifies so far as a good season for the Aggies. I thought the win in their last outing against Missouri was far and away the most impressive that we've seen them all season long. They jumped out early. It was, pedal to the metal. What was different for A&M on that Saturday a week and a half ago?
Well, what was different was that Conor Weigman was playing, and he was playing healthy. Coming into the season, there was a lot of optimism about what A&M might accomplish this year, and one of the big reasons, if not the biggest, was Conor Weigman. Because we've seen him play at a high level before. He got hurt last year, and, we saw him in his first start as a freshman. He threw for 338 yards and 4 touchdowns against Ole Miss, and you're thinking, okay, we got something here. And then he had a couple of nice games against, one was, I think, New Mexico, big deal, but he threw for 337 yards against Miami last year, and then the next week he got hurt. Yeah. So there was a lot of optimism about A&M focus, a lot of it centered around Conor. And then in the season opener against Notre Dame, he was abysmal. And, yeah, it was his first game back from the injury, but, he had a whole year to get ready. And maybe he was still favoring it, and then he hurt his shoulder later in the game. But, there's no way around it. He was terrible. And then you're thinking, okay, well, what do they really have here? And he got hurt again because his shoulder it got re-aggravated in the next game. And Marcel Reed came in and played really well for a freshman, making his first starts, and he led A&M to 3 wins. I mean, they ran the ball pretty well, and he passed just enough. But when Conor came back strong, you got balance that you had not had in the passing game and running game. So, and then the defense has just gotten better every week. We expect it to be a strong point of the team, and it's been pretty good, except for, and they still have an issue. And Mississippi State will be glad to know this. The defense, as good as it is, does have a tendency to give up big plays. And I know that plays into something that Mississippi State does well.
And then from that point of view, Olin, State's offensive line has been troublesome. We'll just put it that way this year. We'll try to be nice to them. If A&M, can get pressure on Mississippi State, obviously it limits those big plays. But you think that if State can protect Michael Van Buren, they have some opportunities there in the passing game?
Well, that's been the case for other teams. They had on the third play of the game against Arkansas, they had a nice pass rush on Taylor Green, and he was able to step away from it. He threw a 75-yard touchdown pass, third play of the game. Notre Dame broke it open with a long run. And then Florida had, they were in control of that game, but they got a long pass, got back into it. Missouri, they scored their 1 touchdown. The quarterback was under pressure, but he was able to roll away from it and throws a 50-something-yard touchdown pass. So, yes, I think play by play, A&M's secondary is pretty good. But, that I'd say 9 plays out of 10. But that 10th one, usually, it seems like that 10th one results in a long touchdown.
Visiting with Olin Buchanan, covers Texas A&M with Texags. Overall mood around the program, does it feel different? Does it feel like, I don't want to say fun is the right word, but I mean, it looks like this is a team that likes each other and is having fun because they are winning and has really embraced Mike Elko. Is that your impression, Olin?
Definitely embrace Mike Elko and his staff part, without a doubt. Some guys left. Mike Elko, and I'm not wanting to talk bad about anybody, but I'll say this: Mike Elko he came in and put in place some rules and some standards that maybe the previous coach let some things slide. For instance, guys expecting to work out and in the off season, get in the weight room, and actually here's a program that was designed specifically for you. Now you do it. And in the past, what we've been told from guys on the team and have left it was more of a suggestion than a demand. And now it's a demand. And some of the guys left because of that. But the guys they brought in, I think Elko was very careful about not only are they good players, but are they the type of guys he wants to coach. And now, look, I mean, everything looks great. They're 5-1. If they hit a losing streak, you might start hearing some people chirping about things different and complaining. But so far, when we talk to players, when we talk to people close to the program, because we don't go into practice, but it sounds like this is a team that's very focused. That guys that want direction, that want to be worked hard, that has a goal and in mind, and understands that there's some sacrifice that goes with reaching that goal. Whereas we might have had some guys here before that were more motivated than what they can get on their NIL deal than what they could, and whether or not they could win on Saturday.
Olin, every Friday we do a segment where we ask two questions. What does the team have to do to win? What does the team have to avoid to win, basically? So I'm going to ask you one of those questions right here with A&M. What does Texas A&M have to avoid? What can they not do if they want to win on Saturday?
Well, I would say, I could say I could make a broad statement, say, don't do anything stupid, because that's a problem sometimes. But I'll make it a little more specific. Don't turn over the ball. The one loss they had 2 interceptions against Notre Dame, and they were big. They haven't had a problem with turnovers, so don't give anything. And they need to run the football. They've been running. Their offensive line is so much better than it was last year. And Le'Veon Moss is on his way to an all-SEC type season at running back. So, everything starts with A&M's offenses if they're successful running the football, which they have been. He's had career highs in each of the last 2 games. So I would think that's the number one thing you got to do effectively is run the football. Don't turn it over. Now, if I said don't do anything stupid, I could get right back to the being out of place on the long big plays that they give up, or some ridiculous penalties that they've gotten on occasion. You get into the red zone, it's not the time to get mad and punch a guy, right? You're in the red zone. If you're going to, wait for the next play or the next series and see if you can't earhole a guy, but don't get into a fight in the red zone, which happened against Florida, and you got a 15-yard penalty. So just play smart, and I think they'll be all right.
Oh, and I want to ask you about a position group, but really a specific player. Defensive line has been talked about so much over the last few years for Texas A&M because of the defensive lineman that they brought in that recruiting class a couple of years ago, because of Walter Nolan transferring to Ole Miss and the player he is. But I think I remember when it happened this offseason, we raised our eyebrows a little bit when we saw the news that Nick Scorton was picking Texas A&M coming away from Purdue, a season where he had 10 sacks a year ago. He leads Texas A&M with sacks, tackles for loss. He has been a difference maker on the defensive line. Was that the single biggest pickup for this team in the offseason?
He was the biggest one. Now I will say this, and again, going back to Elko and the work they did, and they brought in several transfers. And it's amazing. They've hit on almost all of them. Like Will Lee's their best, who came in from Kansas State. He's their best corner, and it's not close. And then they brought an offensive lineman from Kansas, and he's one of the reasons their offensive line is so much better. So they've done really well in the portal. But yes, it definitely starts with Nick Scorton. He's from Bryan, Texas. I don't know if you know, Bryan and College Station are like, right. You can spit in Bryan and land in College Station. I mean, that's how close they are. And but he got out of high school and he only weighed 220 pounds. And Mike Elko was the defensive coordinator here at the time, and had been following him and scouting him, and basically said, "Look, Nick, you're a really good player, but I don't know that you're going to get any bigger, and I don't know that physically you can play week to week in the SEC." So Nick goes to Purdue, puts on 60 pounds, gets stronger, faster, is always agile. And 2 years later, says, "Hey, Nick, why don't you come on home?"
Come on home. Come on back home. He certainly has made a difference this year.
Yeah,
Olin,
yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time. Always great